Some years ago, the International Olympic Committee did a survey of 7 countries, including Australia, the UK, the US, a number of other nations, about what symbols people recognised. And it's back in the 90s. So something like 8 out of 10 people recognised the McDonald's symbol, and a little bit less than 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 people recognised the cross. It's kind of significant, isn't it? Strictly speaking, the McDonald's symbol, the golden arches, is actually really a sign, because you know that when you see it, it's pointing you either to the McDonald's right underneath or the McDonald's that's a few kilometres down the road. But I want to suggest today that it is also a symbol, captures something about our modern world. And while I like a quarter pounder as much as the next person, there's something else about it, isn't it? It's something representative perhaps of a nation that, or of a culture that's addicted to ease. I can drive through and get my burger really fast. That's addicted to consumption, to a culture that is very much focused upon what we consume. And so it is more than a sign. McDonald's perhaps is a symbol. The golden arches are a symbol of something of our culture. The sign of the cross is pretty different, isn't it? They say a good symbol or a good sign is very simple, and the arches of McDonald's are simple, but there's something even simpler about a cross. It's just 2 strokes. Any child can draw it. And the truth of the sign of the cross is that it actually is a symbol that has many meanings. It has lots of symbolic significance. We can't go into all of it today, but I wanted to pick out one element, just one dimension of the symbolism of the cross. You see, if you draw the cross, or if I asked you to draw the cross, I'd ask you to draw it first of all with the vertical stroke, and I'd like you to make an eye with it. To make an eye with it. And what I want you to think about is that that eye symbolises our old self. Some of the spiritual authors of our tradition sometimes call it a false self. And the thing about this old self or this false self is we actually think it's the real thing. It's the persona that we've constructed, that we've built around ourselves. It might be around our pride. It might be that desire to be noticed, to be taken seriously. It might be the I of I am what I do consume, I am what I have, what I possess in some way. The old self can also be I am what I am in the eyes of others. My sense of self is dependent upon what other people think of me, what other people decide I am. The I of the self, the old self, the false self, can be also that which I construct that tries to protect me. Because I'm scared that if anybody actually sees how vulnerable I am or the self that I want to protect, then they would mock it, ridicule it, tear me down. And we've learnt that the hard way, we've learnt that through experience often enough. So that's the vertical line of the cross. It's the eye of the old self. Then I want you to imagine the horizontal line, drawing that horizontal line. And just to know that at the very heart of Christian faith, at the very heart of what we believe, is that that old self, that false self, is crossed out. It's cancelled. You see, we can hold on to it. We can think that it's really precious. We can believe that that old self, that false self, is actually us. And we get very nervous about anyone poking it or prodding it or seeing that in some way or another, if they can peel back the layer of that false self or that old self. But the truth is that it's not you. And it's not me. It's not who we really are. It's not who we were really created and made to be. And so the cross, the sign of the cross, includes, yes, the eye of our old self, that vertical line, but it is crossed out, not by us. And this is the difference between Christian faith and all of the self-help books that you'll ever find. Because the self-help books will say, you cross it out. You decide that you want to remake yourself, do away with the old self. You get to determine a new identity for yourself, to make it in your own image. But Christian faith says, no, it's actually Jesus who crosses out the old self, who crosses out the false self. It's by Jesus' death and resurrection that our old self is crossed out, cancelled. Now that could sound terribly scary at one level, but there'll be some people here sitting here today who actually hear it as the liberating, true good news that it is, because you're really tired of your old self. Because it's exhausting trying to maintain the false self. It's exhausting trying to maintain an image to everybody else, thinking that that's what I need to do in order to exist, in order to be taken seriously, in order to be noticed. And it's liberating to know that your false self is supposed to die. But you also need to know that you can't do it yourself. That it's actually by the power of Jesus that false self is cancelled out, that it's crossed out. But it can also sound really scary because we think, what happens, what's left? If my old self is cancelled out, if the false self that is me trying to make myself something for others, something for myself, if that's cancelled, what have I got left? What remains? And that's where I'd like to remind you of perhaps the most familiar symbol of our faith, the most familiar ritual action of our faith, which is that we make the sign of the cross. And so we make the sign of the cross, we do that vertical line and the horizontal line, and as we do so, we say, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. To do something in the name, to invoke the name of someone. In the ancient world, in our Christian faith, is to say that we invoke the person. Your name is like an icon of you. If I say your name, it's like I'm conjuring up, if you like, a window to you. And so when we make the sign of the cross, we say, I know my eye needs to be cancelled out by Christ so that I might enter into, that I might pass through the window, if you like, that I might enter into the icon of God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Which is to say that I enter into, by the cross of Jesus Christ, I enter into the Father's plan of love for me and for the whole world. That I am caught up into the love that Jesus revealed and showed from the cross. That I am taken up into, that I am caught up into the love that is the Holy Spirit poured out from the cross upon all of us. That when Jesus gave up his Spirit on the cross, he did that in order that it might be poured out upon us. And that Spirit is the Spirit of love. that makes the cross a reality for us, not just an idea or a concept, not just an abstract kind of truth, but the deepest reality of our lives. That we have been loved so much that the only Son of God would not only assume our human condition, but he would die our death, and not just any death, but the most shameful death known to human beings, to be crucified for our sake. It's the Holy Spirit that reveals to us that love and takes us up into that love. And so your old self dies, your false self dies by the power of the cross, but your new and true self is born. And what is that new and true self? It is the you that you were made to be, created out of love for. It's the new self that Jesus died to give to you as his free gift. It's the new self that is transfused and filled and richly spilt out upon you as the Spirit of God who lives and dwells within you. Perhaps the greatest witness to this truth is St. Paul. And in one of the most memorable lines that he ever wrote, he says this: I have been crucified with Christ. I have been crucified with Christ. In other words, he's saying there, my old self died with Jesus on the cross. And he goes on to say, it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. It's no longer I, that's the false self, it's dead. But now it's Christ who lives in me. It's Jesus, the love of God poured out, who lives in me. He goes on to say, the life I live is a life in faith, a life of faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave up himself for me. How much have you been loved? How much have I been loved? The only Son of God loved you enough to die for you. And he did that because he wants the new, true, utterly lovable self that you were created and made to be. He wants that to bloom in you. We have been crucified with Christ. That's the power of the cross. And so every time you make the sign of the cross, I want you to remember that your old self has been cancelled out and is being cancelled out, not by your own power or strength, but by Jesus crucified, so that you might enter into the very life of the Trinity, that you might enter into the very love of God. He loved you and gave his life for you. He loved you and he gave his life for you. He loved you and he gave his life for you.